There's a yellow too.
Hey, good morning or afternoon or midday, whatever it is today. It's 11:13 and this is the Broadband Committee meeting that we're calling to order. We have a lot of people here today.
My name is Joe.
And what I'm gonna do is Bobby, would you do me a favor and call the roll?
Oh. Okay, committee members, Ruth Reeves here. Ken Graff,
Here.
John Gregg. Hugh Green,
Yep.
Edwin Hamilton,
Present.
Brian was here, Mary Sullivan. Michael Zaslow,
Here.
Ira Sierra. Okay, Donald,
You just
He's
walk
here.
around and talk guys.
Fausto,
Here.
David Boaz,
Nope.
Patricia Caputo. Here. Dominic Bonaccia,
Nope.
Stu Richland,
Nope.
Joanne Robinson, Jerry Satowski. Got it.
All right, we have a forum. Thank you. And I'm hoping that the minutes have been browsed over. I would entertain a
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes, any corrections on the minutes? Hearing none, I'm going to accept the minutes as presented and we will go on. Before I do that, I just want to welcome Mary O'Sullivan. She's a new member of the committee. Mary's got many years of experience with the community and represents a lot of residents in our area and Hastings over there.
Thank you.
And welcome. Ira, I think it's up to you. I think the new business is, how are we doing over the last couple of months with our trouble reporting? What are you seeing out there? How can we help you provide service to us?
Okay, she gets a short update, on the service calls, things look about the same as that's been going on. September, we had 299 service calls, about 3.8, October it ticked up a little bit, 357. We had a number of power supplies that were impacted by the hurricane that month,
Right.
probably triggered that up a little bit. Otherwise, everything looks like it's been running consistent. As far as the proposal that we were talking about, I guess we're wondering about that. Right from what I was told, it's we're waiting on final approval, and then so it looks like we're getting close, and then it's going to get presented. That's really all I have for it.
Okay. Thank you. Ken,
I got a question.
Ken, you right here. Go ahead.
On the service calls, you guys keep track of how many callbacks there are to the original call?
I don't have those numbers.
But I mean, is that something that
Repeats.
that they do?
Repeats, yeah, I could probably get some numbers, or ask for some numbers.
I think that's an important thing because the service call is one thing, but if you have to keep coming back for the same issue, that's not a good thing.
Right. And make a note.
That's a good idea, because I know we used to do that at Comcast. Richard,
Just to clarify, by proposal that you're waiting final approval on, that's to include internet in the bulk rate.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
yeah, you're streaming alternative, right? That's what you're looking.
right, the stream TV and internet
Right, okay.
package.
All right. Fausto,
I've noticed, and Ira can testify to this, that some of the complaints that we're getting now are not related to service. Had several people complaining that their boxes weren't working, that they had one lady had a bad television and they sent somebody to her house. She kept saying they're here, and it was a bad TV. Another person had bad cables, had nothing to do with the service. So,
and that's an issue that I think people don't even think about. It's the fact that cables do go bad.
Right.
I mean, I've had it happen where you replace an HDMI port or a length of cable in your home that just has been there forever. and it solves the problem.
But half the phone calls that I've gotten in touch with Ira to handle have nothing to do with their service.
Yeah.
So, and equipment is gonna get old,
It happens.
you know, the Philco TV died, you know, so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I gotta go buy a new one, yeah.
Yeah.
With the tubes.
You know, the issue of the cabling came up 5 years ago. And because when we talked about it, we said, you know, probably at best case, you have Cat 5. If you had Cat 5.
I'm not
it's
talking
Cat-
about home runs.
No,
I'm talking about inside cable from the box to the TV.
I'm talking about that, okay? And the decision, you know, the only decision was they couldn't do a total door to door to door to door to door. Because it would just be too expensive, you know, to address that issue. What is the plan going forward?
Well, I
That's
think that would have to come down to,
a proposal, but
Breeze Line would have
Yeah.
to do an economic, I mean, there's a way to
There's
do
a
that.
break even.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a way
with
from your
the,
point
well,
of
with the
view.
stream TV, those boxes are wired, so they won't need the coax cable. You know, be working off of an internet, like if they're an internet
Right.
feed,
Right,
so that should provide some relief.
right.
To.
There's
those
that inside wiring is irrelevant at that point.
Right,
Once
the
you
inside
break-
wiring, the inside wiring in that system would be irrelevant.
Right, right. So it would, you know, it would take away a lot of those kind of issues.
So is there a receiver and a transmitter?
There's there's the modem.
And it has to be connected to,
Right, so you have to have a modem, so that part has to be connected. And then the stream boxes work off of the modem. Right, but there's no, there isn't like a main box like you have now. There's a main box and you have additional boxes. All the equipment related to the video portion are all the same. So every box will be identical. All services will be identical.
Right.
but it's still using the same 40-year-old wiring in the house to get to where that modem is.
To the main modem.
Yeah.
To the main modem,
Yeah.
to the main modem.
And that's the
Right, the
issue.
inside one.
And that's, you know, that's, in best case, that's probably Cat 3. Because it was done, what, 40 years ago, 30 years ago?
Some of it. Well, the internet, when you install internet, don't you do a new installation?
Well, the modem is connects to the main feed coming inside the home, inside of the unit. I guess that's the coax that's coming in.
Yeah. When you're upgrading from just video to video and internet, or video, internet and phone service, that has to be upgraded.
It's not.
Well,
And
that's not true.
that's gonna be, you
I
know,
apologize, but that's not true.
a lot of it.
There's at
is.
least a dozen people that when they had problems with the home runs inside their apartment, they sent somebody out there and they replaced the home run from downstairs, including Patricia. They went all the way up to the 4th floor. So any problem that affects that line, they're coming in and replacing.
But
And they're not asking any questions.
Yeah.
They
But
just replace.
and I understand what you're saying, but that's a reactive type of an approach. If we are considering, okay, a new methodology,
Right,
okay? If the new methodology, let me do it differently. The new methodology should take into consideration the wiring, okay, that is in the majority of the condominiums here, okay, is insufficient to support what it is
Okay.
going forward.
let's wait and see what their
Okay.
proposal is
Also, the wiring that you're talking about is going from the pedestal
to the
to
apartment.
the apartment. But it's not, it's just from the pedestal outside to the apartment.
Yeah, 4 floors.
Right, but.
And then there's at least a dozen units that have had new wiring replaced because that wire was determined to be bad.
Right, but it's still, once it hits the wall, it's the same old wiring.
No, it's not.
Inside,
We're talking the home run, from the floor, from downstairs to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th floor, whatever it is. That's a home run. Okay, the main line coming into that, if that's determined inside the apartment, if they feel that there's something wrong, they automatically replace it.
Right.
Okay, but now they're actually, because for units that have had 2, 3 phone calls on problems with service, they'll come in and they'll check the resistance in that line, and if there's too much resistance, they replace it. No questions
Yeah,
asked.
running it, they'll run a new drop.
Yeah,
It's-
I'm calling it a home run, you call it a drop.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's going from the wall back down to the pedestal.
Yeah, yeah. So, and they're doing that.
Yeah, we do that now, I mean, that's.
I wonder, is there a way to find out what percentage of units have been upgraded wiring wise?
I don't know.
Yeah, that would be an interesting question
I
for
can find
your
that.
computer.
Yeah.
brains.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I know of at least a dozen people
Yeah,
that
but
that Ira has worked with, and they had no choice, they had to replace that wire.
It'd
And
be
they did-
interesting, because almost everybody that has internet, I would imagine, had to have a new drop put in.
I don't know.
No, that's not true.
No, I know.
I wonder if that's true.
No, they didn't do that.
I've had so many people tell me that they've had it done, so that's why I'm saying. But anyway, we look forward to seeing the proposal, Mary.
I'm new here, but when you talked about the numbers going up a little bit in October, from my experience, a lot of times in our buildings, people go away for 6 or 7 months, so when they come back, a storm might have knocked out their box. It's not a service issue, it's just length of time away from your condo. Last year, when I came back, the whole, like, I think it was 3 of us in a row. A box, we all came back different times, but the boxes were out, they were shorted out in the storm. And we had no issue with, they came right away and replaced them. But sometimes that's why your numbers will go up and start coming down here.
Oh, yeah, no, a lot of things back, but we know in October, there were some power supply issues related to the storm.
Yeah,
And we saw
I'm
a
aware
lot
of that.
But
The storm, it's Florida. Well, since we don't have a whole lot else to report on, since we don't have a proposal yet, is there anything else that we want to bring to the committee? This is gonna be the shortest meeting I've ever had. Mary.
Again, I'm new. I don't know how many meetings you had, but I was asked before I left to be on it, so I wasn't around, I guess, obviously. And well, what is the turnaround time with somebody coming in new to a condo, right? They buy it, they close, they move in. Between them getting TV service from Breezeline.
Well, generally, it's just a couple of days, you know, like,
Yeah, just to change the name on the account.
Yeah.
It's going to the apartment.
No, I know, but there's some people who say, like, we had somebody had to wait a couple of weeks, that's how I got involved. They said, a couple of weeks, something's wrong, that can't be.
those
But
are,
that's the, that's
those are
the.
anomaly issues, that's a typical issue that if something like that to happen and you made it to you go.
That's what we did.
Right, I get a call and say, this, so, a customer or a resident, so and so who's calling to try to get an installation, and they were given an appointment. Out in the.
And that's exactly what we did, and that's exactly what happened.
Right.
But I didn't know if there was a rule. And some, the turnaround time.
Yeah, generally,
2 days,
within 48 hours,
All right.
it should be,
okay.
It's really business days though, isn't it, Ira?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we had that discussion, so it was out on a Friday afternoon, which is usual,
Right,
everyone.
sometimes it
everything
fluctuates
goes
out
up,
on
yeah,
Friday
right.
and
Yeah,
we
going
have
to
that.
Saturday.
But it's not a
Monday,
long
Sunday.
every time.
No, and if there is anything that ever gets extended out and
Right.
it gets brought to my attention, we pull it back in and
Yeah.
get it taken care of quickly.
Yeah, that's really the procedure, just bring it in, Fausto or I will
That's
call
what we said.
Ira and.
That's what we did, and it worked out, but I just wanted to begin.
That's good.
I asked him a question.
All right.
I've had some people tell me that they've had issues with their TV. With the TV, the screen goes dark. And it doesn't work. And they call up Breezeline, and I think they change the box. A couple of weeks later, the same thing happens. Thank you. That's why I was asking how many recalls do you get for the same customer?
Well, that does happen. I mean, I have those, I have heard
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's,
I mean, I don't have those numbers.
Is it a bad box that causes the TV to go dark?
It could be, I mean, a number of things. I mean, it could be that, it could be the equipment. It could be that there may have been something in the house that wasn't addressed on the first visit. You know, I mean, it could have been a bad fitting that wasn't replaced. And it was just temporary when the box was replaced and looked like it was working at the moment, but then it went bad shortly after that. So it could be a variety of, you know.
So if the customer is persistent and they get enough calls, eventually it gets fixed.
Well,
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we try to repair it. As a business, we try to make sure we handle the service call on the first visit because it's very costly
Right.
to go out and do, you know, repeat calls. So operationally, you know, and I don't manage the tech op group, but the last thing they want to see is repeat visits for the same issue. You know, and then if they have that, I know that they address those with the technician or the contracting technician that may have gone out there, but they try to minimize that.
my
You know,
question
can I
that,
ask a question?
Yeah.
I have this odd issue. I have to reboot 7 times out of 10 times that I got my TV on, I have to reboot the TiVo box. It's been a couple of years, I just do it. What could that be?
It could be a power source, it could be the equipment. You know, you can call for a service call.
Yeah, it actually happened after I had a box, new box installed, so you think it might be the box, it was part of it.
Could be, I mean, for me, it's hard for me to tell.
I understand, I know you're guessing, I'm not asking.
Yeah,
All right, so call for a service call, all right, thank you.
Joanne, Ken, for your question, first of all, you need to find out which box it is.
Yeah, it's the TiVo box.
So it's a TiVo, it's not the other box, and it's not, no,
No, it's one that connects to the television.
okay.
well, there's a DTA and a
That-
TiVo.
Yeah, it's a TiVo.
Right.
And then there's the other one.
Are you talking about a particular person, or is this something that
I've
you're
had-
hearing from multiple
I've had a
people?
couple of people, you know, the computer club asked me about that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, for individual issues, you really have to just follow the procedure that we've got, you know, call for trouble call, if you don't get satisfaction, call here, talk to House or myself, we'll escalate to Ira and, you know, we'll, you know, on a case by case basis. But from a committee point of view, what we want to deal with is, are there many people asking the same questions? I mean, that's why I wanna have a big committee, I wanna have people at this meeting. So that you bring the stuff back and say, you know, I heard from 15 people last week that whatever it is. And then that's how we can start to, you know, affect change. But to say, you know, well, one person out of 7,800 units, you're always gonna have 1 or 2 people that are, you know,
Yeah, there's always
it's
gonna
just
be
the way
issues
it
like that.
is. And this is a 50-year-old community, so that wiring was put in by Adelphia. I don't know if those boys are out of jail yet. It's not great, but it is what it is, yeah. So that's why I want the committee to, you know, try and bring things in that are endemic, systemic, you know, we wanna deal. Yes,
With reference to the efficiency for Breeze Line, we have an office that does not provide remote controls and does not provide boxes. And my neighbor needed a remote control, she's 89, she does not drive. I think it's silly to ask a repairman to deliver or even UPS to deliver when she's 50 feet away from the baseline office.
this is the kind of thing I would do. We knew there was a problem with the remotes, right, and the
It's
stocking of the
happened
boxes.
before, but they should have remotes in the, on
Okay,
counter.
I knew we had a problem at one point, but they should be restocked at this point.
I mean,
always get mine up.
Generally we do, if they may have just ran out at that time and.
that is not what she said.
Came in.
I drive by there at least several times a day and there's never any cars there. I don't know what they do. when I do walk in, they're not happy to see me, and then they tell me that I have to go to some location several miles away to get a new remote, and I don't understand that kind of efficiency.
Well, it could be human error that somebody forgot to order something or they didn't get it.
Rather than speculate,
In any event, I'll mention that I heard about remotes missing from the front counter here, so we can address that.
thanks, Ira.
And as a backup, if you did need one here, we didn't have it, we do have the flagship store at Okeechobee and Military
She did mention it,
as a backup.
So we have a contract. That contract calls, and we negotiated very hard for these two things in the contract. One is that store to be available to our unit owners without having to leave the property. And the other is unlimited service calls.
Right.
And I sat in the meetings with Mr. Shea and I said, if it's user error, they just don't even know how to use the bill. He said, we will send the company out as many times as it takes, even for remote controls.
Yeah.
So your friend,
Just call.
and I don't know her specifics, she shouldn't have to go anywhere to
Exactly.
get a new one. It
Exactly.
comes to her.
And I was willing to get it at the office, but they didn't have any.
Let them bring them to her. That's what we pay for,
Yes.
all right?
And then the second issue is my box went out and I spent a half an hour that time, a half an hour the next day, uncoupling, following the directions of the service guy on the phone who was trying to get me to fix my box. So after an hour and a half, we decided that we needed a new box. And I could have it the next day, or I could have it 8 days from now. So the gentleman was very good. He brought in a new box. That box too did not work. So we had to go down and get a third box, brought it up, hooked it up. It seemed to be working, except I can't get closed captions now, and I'm going to have to wait another week or so to get yet another box. Because he told me that
Alright,
these
so-
boxes are used.
So back to the contract.
Refurbish.
There is no reason for you to talk on the phone for an hour and a half with someone to get a service issue resolved. We have a contract that calls for unlimited service calls. After 1 minute, say, get a man down here. And if it doesn't come in a timely fashion, please let us know, all right? Because that's what the contract is.
Donald,
We worked hard. It's the guy that did it.
there's a script that they go by,
And then write a script, say.
but they have to go through the whole script before they go to the next step.
We don't want any scripts.
But that's what, that's how it
I read
works.
that contract 1,000 times, unlimited service calls,
I know.
period. No scripts, no. Some people can't handle scripts, some people don't
I
speak
understand
English.
that, but the
Get it.
guy on the phone wants to go through that script.
That's exactly,
That's
your level ones, your level
Yeah.
Yeah,
ones,
well, anytime you call in for a service call,
you're gonna get a
the
level one.
customer service person is gonna attempt to try to resolve it
Of
over the
course.
phone. And there's a benefit to that, because if they can resolve it over the phone, then it saves the person from having to wait,
Right.
you know, for an appointment, whether it's even the next day
Right.
or the
But
day
an hour
after.
and a half on the phone.
Right.
If-
I mean,
And if she says it's an hour and a half, I believe her.
yeah, no, believe me, I've heard those stories too.
Yep.
You know, where they really been trying to work and narrow it down to see if they can get it going. And you know, me personally, my patience would be frayed by that point. You know, so a lot of times when I, you know, if I was to see some notes, you know, when I look at some of these accounts that come my way, you know, you can see it because they put the notes in.
Right.
And they'll say attempted, you know, spent, and, you know, customer didn't want to continue troubleshooting PC valid, you know, and they send it. So, you know, it's gonna be different for each person as they go into it, but as a general rule, they're gonna try to troubleshoot, you know, over the phone, and if they can't get it resolved, they'll schedule a service call, and, you know, if the customer or the resident wants to end the troubleshooting, you know, and that happens a lot too. Some people, as we know, don't have the patience, some are not mobile, right?
Yeah,
You know,
or verbal.
you know, all different issues related to a senior community, right? And they can't do the troubleshooting,
I had to get pliers.
right? You know, so they'll schedule the service call, right? And that's how the business as usual
And if
operates.
you can't get that service call in a reasonable amount of time, we wanna know about that. Oh, yeah, right, that's what we're here for, that's what this oversight committee is.
Maybe you should put in a time limit on the phone after 10 minutes.
No, it's hard to have a specific thing for every
Yeah, you can't-
encounter that's gonna come.
You know.
The person on the phone is gonna do their best to try to resolve the issue over the phone, and if they're not able to do it, successfully, they'll schedule a service call, and if the customer wants to schedule a service call, they wanna not troubleshoot any further, they're the one who'll tell the customer service rep, let's schedule the service call, I'm tired, I've had enough.
We have all
Thank
different
you,
levels.
every encounter's gonna be different, but there isn't any issue with scheduling a service call to come out. And take care of the residents. This has been going on, and we've been doing this, I'm here 3 years, right? We talk about this all the time. It's just part of how businesses.
What about the service representative beginning by saying, at any time you may request a service call?
You're not gonna say.
I know, it's fine.
Remember
But
that,
her with her
If you had a
hands,
business, would you want them to do that? No. It was your business.
I couldn't see, I can't see.
You know,
If he
you say,
tells me to
"Here,
do
let me
something,
spend some
I can't see it.
Service calls are available when residents need them,
Yeah.
at any time will be scheduled, and if your schedule's not different than someone likes, and it comes, usually you, as it works, you bring it forward and, we'll take care of it. And you do that on a case by case basis.
Seems like, it's working.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in
More or
a
less,
community this size, we really don't have any appreciable change. I mean, it's pretty much the same in several years. It's going, seems fine to me. We just need to hear from the community as things change, if things change, Someone agree. Lee?
Yeah, I have a question for Ira and Breezeline. And it probably goes along the lines of all these questions and statements about issues with boxes and hardware and service. Ira, I read the contract and we have 3 years left on the contract. What was the
5
purpose?
years.
What was the purpose and the origination of the proposal that you just mentioned earlier? How did that idea of a proposal for a new contract come up, and when did that happen?
I can tell you one,
I'd like to hear from Ira.
but I wasn't here when we negotiated the contract.
Right, I'm not involved in the contract, the contract with the negotiations, because that's not what I do.
Okay, do you know why the proposal is being made?
Well, I believe the proposal is being made because there's new technology that's available right now. And which would be advantageous, as that's a direction that the industry is going. So we're speaking with Century Village about that technology. And whether or not that's something that makes sense for the community. We feel that it is, but
Right.
that's up to you guys. The new technology works with internet. Internet is the way of the future. This is an internet-based technology with an upgrade with new equipment and new technology. And many communities are wanting to take advantage of that. And Breezeline recognizes that change is one thing, and so we want to speak to you guys about that, and if what is presented makes sense and you can come to terms on it, then.
Well, can I follow up with that question, please? All right, so I agree with you. The technology is great. You've got internet, streaming TV, internet required for it. However, what are you going to do about the 3 years or 5 years, as Fausto says, left on our contract as far as satisfying that? Currently, you're having issues with boxes, you're having issues with hardware, you're having issues with service. Just the other day, a neighbor, one of my Synergy Club members said, I had to get a new remote and they tried to charge me for it.
Well,
And I said, she said, I told them I'm not supposed to be, charged for a remote, and they insisted on charging her. So that, I know that's not an issue, that, she should get it free.
yes,
But I don't want to detract from my point of the conversation here. if you guys are having problems with boxes and you're possibly trying to do this proposal to avoid having to deliver the service that you currently have contracted, why aren't you just giving us the streaming TV and allowing the streaming of the internet in under the current contract and just fulfilling it that way? If it's better for you to do it that way, why not? Without charging, you shouldn't charge us if we're already under contract and you have to provide
We're
the
serving
service.
the residents and responding to the resident to and provide the service and repair as necessary on perfect terms of the agreement. This is a new product set that we're presenting and that we're speaking with you guys about, and that's really all I can say.
Okay.
And Fausto?
If you read the contract, there's a clause in there between year 3 and 5. If there's any technical updates, the vendor is supposed to bring it to us. And that's what they did. They came here 2 years ago and they said streaming is the way to go, and we rejected it at the time.
And it also
Okay.
says after year 6, the client, which is you, has the option to accept a new proposal or not accept a new proposal. And as a part of accepting that new proposal, you're waiving your right for them to provide service for the last 3 to 5 years
No, you're not.
when they have to
No, you're
provide
not.
service,
No, you're
so.
not. And I'm sorry,
This is
this,
allowing
this,
us not.
this
Can I finish my
committee,
point,
this,
please?
no,
Can I
because
finish
you're wrong.
my statement?
No,
Well, you can tell me I'm wrong after I finish my statement. I would still like to just make my statement.
but your statement is wrong.
So you're gonna interrupt me so I can't even make my point?
I'm going to tell you that you're
Okay, fine,
wrong.
go ahead and make your point.
I'm
I'll be
going
courteous
I'm
and let
going
you
to
make your
tell you,
point.
this committee is not gonna decide anything. No officers are going to decide. The delegate assembly will decide the contract.
Right, I understand.
So by you making a statement, us, it's not us, it's the delegates that go to the delegate assembly, that we will present the contract, and it is up to them to accept it.
Okay, that's not my point, but I get what you're saying. However, that brings me to my next question, which is to you. What is the process, once the proposal is addressed with the board, the UCO committees? What is the process for moving that contract or that proposal forward to the point where it gets to the delegates assembly? Who is going to talk about negotiating and how does that process work?
The committee will.
You wanna do it? Oh, Chair, go ahead.
The committee is charged with passing. We are a collaborative committee and we will pass it to the officers, who will go to the executive committee, who will go to the delegate assembly. That's what we do with all of our contracts. Same
And who
as
does the negotiating with Breeze Line?
We'll decide that.
You'll decide that how? How do you decide that?
We will decide that in this committee.
So you're not gonna use the negotiator? You guys will negotiate it yourselves?
I don't know what we're gonna do yet.
Well, that's why I'm
When we
asking.
get the
That's why I'm asking.
proposal, we'll find out.
Okay, so you can't tell us you need a negotiating company or team?
We don't have a
to negotiate the
proposal,
contract?
there's nothing to negotiate, because there's no proposal.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Richard, is Leo still in the picture?
Another layer will be, as with the old one, it will go to and through a lawyer.
Of course,
Yeah.
all contracts go through that review, of course.
You know, one of the things that we did before the beginning of the contract was we had a, excuse me, building by building analysis. If you, I don't know how many of you were there, but Anitra, okay, who used to be a renter here, she took it upon herself to generate a working paper, okay, of what every single individual in the community saw their needs were for this type of a service. Now, I'm not certain if that's appropriate as at this point in time, but that, I'm just bringing to the point that was something which we did. And what we found out from that survey is that, and that was 5 years ago or so, we got a majority of, it was much more than that, you know, yeah. But you recall what happened, okay? The majority of the people in the community said no.
They did not want the bulk.
They did not want it.
And that's why it's been so.
But do we need to do a survey again is really the question to determine what is in the mindset of all the people.
You know, you do reach a point, and Fausto has made this point more than once. Once you go beyond 50%, you're into the point where now you're paying for not having something,
Yes,
you know, so it's sort of like the bus service. You know, we all pay for the buses.
Yes.
Even though we don't use them, we might someday, and you know, we use that, so we have, you know, we have resisted this because of that survey. We knew that information.
The original contract, when it was presented by Breezeline, included internet.
yes.
And that's what the people turned down. They could, the bulk with TV and internet was turned down, they did not want internet. And that was because several buildings had used Comcast Business to wire their own buildings, and they said, why should we be paying $20 when I get it for $5? That's why it was turned down,
I
the
agree.
bulk, because it was combined.
It just, the village has changed, the village
Of
has
course.
changed.
Yes, of course.
And we are at the point where the technology is much more widely used and more accepted and needed. So we're gonna go forward with it. I mean, when we see the proposal, we'll decide what our next steps are, so. Unless we have any other business to conduct.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Ira.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And we have a good working relationship.